Hey everyone, guess what? We're here with Elijah Kellogg. Elijah Kellogg is in Floodlit. Oh my God. They've only put out one single so far. I'm gonna say it's Amma, but I think I said it wrong.
Yeah, that's okay. Everybody says it wrong, man. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. Amma is the
Amma. Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Um
No worries.
wh- what a great song, and I say that not just because like it's a solid song. Like the structure is really well, all the instruments fit together beautifully, and your voice. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Like
Oh man.
your
Well, thank you.
your your voice is like there's a familiarity to it. Like I've heard it before or I've connected with it before, and I can't put out where I got that at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've been getting so much positive feedback, just like you've been sharing. Thank you, by the way. It's an honor to be on the show and also just to be encouraged by your words for the song. We have been hearing a lot of like stained, which was so funny. That's all coming from the South. South America thinks I sound like Aaron Lewis from Stained and Serj from System of a Down, which are high callings, especially Serj. That's wild. I don't think I sound so much like Serj at all.
Right.
I think what they mean to say is they hear the cleans and then they hear the screaming and they're like, oh, that's for a lot of pop music world. That's about the only equivalent they can make. If you grew
Yeah.
up in the MTV kind of like Total Request live world, and the only thing you knew about metal was like Korn or System of a Down, or maybe old school metallic like Metallica, like maybe Refused if you watch Fuse or something. I think
Hold on. Touching on Refused real quick. Their
yeah,
last
yeah.
show is Saturday.
Oh no, are you gonna go see them?
No, no,
Oh yeah.
it's a hometown show
Oh
in
okay, in like Sweden or
Sweden
whatever
or
they're from.
yeah,
Yeah, Switzerland.
yeah.
I can't remember the Sweden or Switzerland. Yeah,
I think they're in Sweden, but I'm going
yeah.
to Cleveland for Chimera Christmas Saturday. So
Oh, sick. Okay, very cool. Well, you'll be rocking either way. But yeah, I know. Refused is just a great example. Well, we can talk about Refused forever. But all that to say, I think if a comparison even mattered, if I had to make a comparison, I love Thrice. Obviously, got the shirt on. Love Dustin Kensrue from Thrice, especially their older stuff. Artist in the Ambulance was an incredible album. But also, I would say Tim. Gosh, I always forget his last name, but Tim from Rise Against. I would say those are two of my probably biggest vocal influences. I really have always loved them. I've always thought that they balance singing, growling, screaming really well. They've got a good run up, a good run down, great range, and so yeah. I think it's
it's
yeah.
one of the things that I see a lot of is you see bands that want to mix the harsh vocals and the clean vocals,
Mm-hmm.
and like it, full disclosure, I prefer harsh vocals.
Yeah.
I'm not real big on like clean singing because I think so many people miss the mark with it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. It's very
It's
yeah, singing is tricky, of course, because it's so easy to be pitchy. And singing is very unique too, because I think for the human ear, whether we're conditioned by society or just history, family history, or culture, whatever, certain timbres of singing, to use a musical term, certain like tones and tonality of people's voices are unfortunately not really well respected. Going back to Serj, it's funny because I know people really like his singing, but sometimes they were often turned off by his screaming because it's a bit more of a guttural kind of bark, and it's that tone. What they mean to say is he's not a bad singer or bad screamer or bark, he's just got an interesting tone. And I think, yeah, you're right. Tones are like really tricky to balance. And if you got a really nasally voice, which you can't control, I mean, your voice is your voice oftentimes. And if you got a really nasally voice, or you've got um, maybe just a bit more of like, yeah, like full body without any grit in it, like when a screamer goes to scream and it's like just like kind of yelly, but not really got the
yeah,
breakup that
yeah,
Hollywood says you should have. yeah, people get really kind of boxed in, and singing is already hard as it is, and then to be so, preferential, and so many people have different opinions, and yeah, screaming is really like it's almost easier. You're absolutely right. It is absolutely true. Like
Oh
screaming is
yeah.
tricky.
If
Yeah.
you're if you're screaming, you could be out of tone and people don't care. But if
Yeah.
you're singing and you miss the littlest mark by, a fraction of a hair, people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, it's the worst thing ever."
Yeah, I
But,
know.
you know, it can really throw the whole song off though.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true.
if
It's
if
totally
you're
true
off just a
because when
little
you
bit.
add a pitch, I would say screaming is coloring the song like a distortion's coloring a guitar, right?
Yeah.
If anything, actually, distortion on a guitar is very forgiving. I mean, you can kind of like screw up a chord and, it's
Yeah,
gonna sound
distortion covers it up. Yeah.
it yeah, it's kind of a good cheat. Whereas, same thing with screaming. I think if you're screaming and you've got a good breakup, it covers a multitude of sins. But singing is like that clean guitar tone, and man, you're either like crushing it. You got a beautiful melodic, you know, guitar tones and a beautiful melodic voice, or you miss one note and it's so visible, it's so obvious. And
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, singing is tricky. It really is an art. And I'm blessed to, we're stoked to have two other singers in the band. So, it's not just me. I'm sure you heard Will as well and
Yeah.
Candy as well, who are really, really great singers. They've got their own kind of vocalization and timbre, which is really cool. And I think the three work really well. So, yeah. I
Put,
love that you love it, man. Yeah, that's cool.
putting it all together is, it's hard bringing in other, I think, musicians, um,
Yeah.
whether they're, singing or playing an instrument or whatever. It's
Yeah,
hard to
right.
find those that like really mesh well. And it seems like, obviously I've only heard the one single, but I feel like, uh, you know, collaboratively, you guys do really well together.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I'm in the garage and the garage door opened and closed. Our housemate just came home. She had no idea I was in here. And sorry, that was my bad.
Surprise.
Yeah,
You're good.
surprise. So yeah, it's really cool, especially because Candy and Will are Candy I think turns 20 soon. Will just turned 22, so they're the younger members of our band, and we have quite a. I love that we have different ages. We also have different demographics and ethnicity. Candy and Yvonne, our lead guitarists, are from China, and we have different ages. We have different. I'm kind of mid late 30s. Our drummer's early 40s, and then everyone's like kind of behind that. Yvonne's like 31, maybe 30, 31. Then Will's 22, Candy's 19. So it's just a fun. It's like a family, and it's kind of cool to work with, to have been able to hand select a team that I think would ultimately become Floodlit and work really well together. So it's been cool to not only be an artist but to be a team leader, and to be not just the front man from a lyric or singing standpoint, but as like a composer or conductor from from a orchestral standpoint, or like from a family standpoint, just like to be kind of dad, and help run the ship. So it's cool.
Every band needs a dad, that's for sure. Like,
That's true. They should. If they don't, that's why they get in trouble. Yeah,
no,
oftentimes.
even yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, oh, we didn't have a band dad tonight. We're all in
No,
jail. No.
yeah, I know. They go wild. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And in some bands, that's their manager, or that's kind of like more of a creative director, or an A&R, and that's great too. You could be pure talent and nobody's got any responsibility whatsoever.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
that's dope, but it's cool to have to just work with people who trust me, and then I trust them, and we work together really well like a family. And yeah, and I think Ama is a really great example of that. I really do hope listeners have heard it or are going to hear it and hear that cohesion as a family, and that intentionality to build the band around each
it
person's
looks
strengths.
like it. Looking at just the Spotify numbers, right? Like it
Hmm.
looks like you guys are doing really, really well. I mean, that
Yeah.
first single's been out a month.
Not, yeah, not
month and a
even.
half.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
are, no, we're at like 3 weeks. Yeah, 3.5 weeks or
yeah,
something
because
like
it
that.
was the 21st of last month,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
to it's you guys are coming up on like 11,000, streams
Yeah.
on the song, which is I know
Yeah.
bands
Huge.
that,
I
haven't hit a
know.
thousand and they've had songs out for,
Yeah.
quite a while.
And great
So,
bands too. It's not to, I don't think it's against anybody's ability. I think yeah, there is an intentionality, to um beyond just making music, then to know what to do next is hard. It's really hard. This is my third project. So I
hmm.
grew up in high school. I got into my first band in my junior year. So I was 2 years in high school in a pretty, serious, legitimate, it was with friends, but we took it pretty serious, like pop punk band. And then we continued to do that for like 2, 3 more years after that. I think we were together for about 5 years. And our last year, we were managed by El Jefe from NoFX. So, which was super cool. And he was really a sweet guy, gracious guy, dealing with a bunch of young dudes. And we learned all the things to do. We learned all the things not to do. And and then I got into, and that band did what is basically the classic, like everyone grew up and everyone thought like you couldn't be a rock star if you were over 22, I guess. I don't know.
Oh
But
yeah.
they were like, I'm gonna go be a firefighter or whatever. So they quit, and that was that. And
So
then
did you
I
guys put anything since you guys were working with El Jefe, did you guys put anything out on Fat Records?
No, not with Fat. Actually, El Jefe was working at the time. He was working with gosh, what is his name from Pennywise? Big dude from Pennywise, got the beard.
Oh,
Uh,
is that's not Fletcher. Fletcher.
yes, yeah, Fletcher. Yes, so Fletcher, is it Ian Fletcher? No, different first name. Fletcher had just put out a record label at the same time, and it was it was two things. One was we were young, and like I said, half the band decided they wanted to grow up. The other reality was El Jefe and guys like Fletcher, they were entering a new world of music, streaming, and just like low CD sales, low, even vinyl had only just fallen off a cliff, hadn't really made the resurgence. This is early 2000s.
Oh
And
yeah, like
so
that was such a hard time for vinyl, like it
such a
was.
everything. I mean, music
Yeah,
was not making money, and or at least not the traditional ways that it had been making money for a band like NoFX or Pennywise or anybody in punk,
right.
Lagwagon, those guys. and and so they were all kind of like beginning to test out like producing and taking on kind of administrative roles. And so Fletcher launched a label, Viking Funeral, I think is what it's called, and we were talking about potentially releasing on that. But yeah, I mean, we were just young and dumb, and I'm sure not very easy to manage. um, and at the same time, they were new. They were like artists themselves, trying to be more administrative,
Yeah,
and you kind of know how that goes, right? I think anybody could explain it, even in any kind of work environment. Any man could say like, hey, there's a team for a reason. Like you don't just you don't just, one guy does everything unless it's a very specific skill and that's how he makes his money directly. Like you do want kind of an administrative cohesion, and the guy who's administrating usually is really boring and not fun and not particularly artistic, but he's very good at what he does. And I think El
yeah,
Jefe, guys like Fletcher, really sweet guys, but ultimately artists, not necessarily administrative geniuses, like the guys that we all learned, we all come to love to hate, but really are ultimately in their position for a reason because they're businessmen and they know what they're doing.
yeah.
Whereas, that was kind of that. So, anyways, that was the whole thing with them. And then I got into, a year later, I started a band that was way thrice coded, super, super thricey. And this you can easily find on Spotify and around the internet. But it was a band called Matter. And we had two albums and again learned so much. I'd already known so much from the first band. This second band, we learned even that much more. We were together for another 5 years. Um, And that was really felt like a serious, opportunity. The issue that came up with that band, let's like turn into like a band therapy
This
like
is
podcast.
therapy. Yes.
Yeah, we could talk about like, listen, if you're in a new band, here's your do's and don'ts. So this band, the next band was brilliant. Again, friends. Actually, the guy who's going to come and film this music video, like the background that's behind me in my garage, um, he is the guitarist of that band. So him and I are still really great friends. The issue there, I think, was ultimately just too many cooks in the kitchen. So it's kind of like the reverse problem where we had just too many people with really strong opinions all poking at the same project and keep adding spice here and sauce there, and it was really good. I mean, we made some great music, and it's a great band and good friends, but ultimately the other problem was they, a good another half or so the band didn't really want to tour, didn't want to sign anything. They loved being artists and they didn't really want to like be performance, based. And so touring kind of became out of the question, and like bigger shows just there wasn't really interest. And we were chatting with labels and didn't really want to continue conversation with labels. They just like, we just do this. And that kind of drove me crazy because I really liked going out and playing and being present, and on
Yeah.
top of just the so many cooks in the kitchen and leadership, and eventually again fizzled out. And that's okay. That was what it was. And at that time, I guess I thought this was like we ended in, gosh, like 2015-ish. So 2014, 2015. So it was like, over 10 years ago. And I thought that even at that time, I was like, well, so much for that. That was fun while it lasted. I gave it like 10 years. And I guess I'll grow up, like I'll finally catch up with the rest of them. And I'm really thankful that wasn't true. And my wife and I, my family, we moved overseas. We moved to Myanmar, to Burma, which is actually Ama is the name of our single is Burmese for older sister. And so this whole album, this whole project, that Floodlit, our first release that we're doing, our first album, is about Myanmar. It's about family in Myanmar. So every title of the album will be a different family member's name. So the first single is older sister, Ama. And at the time, though, moving to Myanmar, we didn't know I was going to get back into music. I thought I was done with that. We moved over there. We were helping build communities and starting businesses, and just doing a lot of community development and service. Things were going well. We were there for 4 years or so, and very long, beautiful but tragic story short. The military launched a coup, took over the government, or retook the government from civilian hands, black bagged a bunch of parliamentary members. They have a parliament system, two-party parliament. I mean, a two-house parliamentary system. They black bagged all these representatives. Still don't know where they are to this day. Probably many of them are dead. And it just kind of, the country devolved into civil war. And so we had to emergency evacuate in 2021. And I found myself back here. Here is California, Los Angeles, where I grew up, and didn't really know what to do. I thought like that was kind of the trajectory, was like, okay, we're going to move there. We're going to build our lives here. We're going to live here. We're going to build community. And we waited like 6 months to see if we could go back. We waited a year to see if we could go back. We waited, 2 years, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And while we still continued to support a lot of the work that's being there and done from afar, ultimately we knew we weren't going to go back. And I guess, in truth, Floodlit began kind of as a grieving process. Like I just started writing music again because I didn't really know what else to do. I lost this, country, and that we felt we're falling in love with, and these people that we were friends with. Actually, our housemate, like the gal who just walked through the interview, she's from Myanmar, which is cool. She used to work with us there, so we helped bring some here, and they're seeking asylum here. So we have a lot of hands in Myanmar, but like I don't, not what it used to be. And I
Right.
just began to really process that and grieve that. And out of that came the first songs that eventually this band that I would help create would begin to put out. And that was not that Floodlit's all about Myanmar. I hope to see Myanmar. I hope to hear Floodlit continue to make more songs and different stories, different albums down the road that are different, kinds of concepts. But the first one is definitely all in for Myanmar and for grieving loss in a war-torn country.
Well,
So
so I think it's I think it's cool and interesting that you're doing that because something that's really important to me in music is like being able to connect with things within music, which I think most people are looking for, right?
yeah, yeah,
And understanding the grieving process for anything
yeah.
is is probably what really helps me connect with Ama.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
listening to the lyrics because I get it, I understand,
Hmm.
like it was, I grew up in Detroit. I
Mm,
saw, I saw all the violence. I saw the, shit that I probably
hmm.
shouldn't have seen. Hell, even at, almost 50 where I am now, like
Mm.
there are things that shouldn't, I don't know, shouldn't be just,
Yeah,
that just are whatever.
that's right. And that's absolutely right. I think humans, we need outlets to say exactly what you just said. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And obviously I'm a bit more religious in background as a Christian. I have, a worldview for that. But I think that aside, any person, any human can look around, I would hope, and look around and go, this is wrong. Like this is not the way it should be. And if anybody says, like, looks around and goes like, this is great, I love this, like, they're the enemy. Like, that's who I sing against, because if you look
Yeah.
around and you go, this is exactly the way I want it, everything is working out the world is my oyster, that means you are wicked because the world is a mess. And if you're keeping it at that status quo to benefit, self-benefit, you're I mean, you know.
I would, my argument to that would be, I think there are some really amazing things in the world
Pockets. Yeah,
that,
yeah, that's right.
right?
Yeah,
But
you're right. It's not to say that it's all bad.
right.
I think we each. So that's another element of human, and this is great, and I appreciate you saying that because yes, for sure, there's like we begin to build worlds around us that are the way things ought to be. Taking a wife, building a family, building a home, a space, a really cool place that's yours, and having ownership over that. Those are all really good things. And I think that's why we can see the bad and we can say, gosh, this really isn't the way it should be. Because I do think there are really great foundational things that we help construct, we build, and again, religion aside, just human psyche is like we're trying to find meaning in the crazy, in the chaos, and I think those good things are actually some of the things we help participate in building. But at
Yeah.
the same time, if you look at your good thing and you say, well, this is like, this is just perfect, the world is peachy, this is all I have and this is all I'll ever want. I mean, it is a little bit short-sighted, right? It tends to
Yeah, but
diminish.
at at the same time, it takes all kinds of people, right?
Yeah,
Like there
yeah,
there are those people who are going to strive for, the I want the perfect world and I'm going to work to, be
yeah,
the
yeah,
architect of the perfect world. And then
yeah.
there are people who are like, you know what? I'm happy with my wife and my kids, or my husband and my kids and my
Exactly, exactly.
white picket fence on the farm or whatever. And
Sure,
and that's
sure.
that is what makes, to me, that's what makes the world so amazing, is the
Yeah,
different people. I like
yeah,
talking to people because I want to learn, I want to
yeah.
know,
Brilliant.
like
Yeah, yeah.
what makes
Exactly.
them tick,
Yeah,
so
exactly. Absolutely. And I think that's the thing is like in Myanmar, we have a farm. So I have 3 acres of land and we have goats and we have corn and rice and we have that. But to watch that slip away because of a military, because of wicked men with guns who come in and say, thankfully no one has taken ours, but the student center that we built, the world that we built, and the students coming and learning different language, English, and playing board games and serving up coffee, like that has bullet holes in it now, and that has a mortar shell that came through the ceiling, like the street down from us burned to the ground. Like it's crazy because I think we build those worlds, but other people who are building their world in their process destroy other people's worlds, right? And I think that's like, how do we balance harmony? And all that to say, there's no argument to be made, except I think for me, for Floodlit and this album, it's that idea of mourning is a perfectly human thing to do. There's nothing shameful or wrong about it. It's being able to look at what is right, like you said, to build a home, a family, just to have some peace, a little piece of earth that's yours to call peace and yours to call, complete and perfect. And if that gets taken away, to mourn that, especially when you're powerless, especially when there's no
Yeah.
fight left. There's nothing literally you can do. You don't have guns against guns. You just put your hands up and you go, it's gone. Mourning is all we have. And I think that mourning with meaning, not mourning with a hopelessness, but mourning with a kind of resilience is exactly what we hope our album is. That's kind of the goal, right? Not to be,
Well,
not to be a mega downer.
no, I
Yeah.
don't think it's a mega downer. I think it's really insightful. And I think something that we haven't touched on yet that is
Yeah.
super important to me, music
Mm.
is the great unifier,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like when we
Yes.
go to see, you talk about how you like to perform. I love to
Mm.
watch bands perform. So like when we
100%. Yeah.
when we go out and see the band perform, I I like it because nothing else matters. We are
That's
all
right.
there for this
Yeah.
band or one of the bands in the night, and it doesn't matter
Hmm.
color of skin, religious preference, sexual
Hmm.
preference. Like
Yeah. That's
none
right.
of that matters, dude. We are
Yeah.
all there collectively as
Yeah.
humans and as fans of music. Like,
Absolutely. There is a beautiful language to music that is universal. It's coded in us as people. And when you do it right and you find the right people who like your music, and there's always music to like. I think when people say, I don't like music, it's like, well, you're either psycho or what's more likely is you just haven't heard what connects to you, like, and it is sad to see a lot of music become kind of a catalyst for commercialism and consumerism, when I think a lot of music, actually good music, which is like a lot of metal, a lot of the heavy music, which is why I fell in love with it when I was young, is its connection. It has very little to do with how many sales and how many, it has
right.
so much to do with that, like you said, that live room energy, like watching the Chariot tear a venue apart is a spiritual experience. Like
Yeah.
I've cried watching. I shared the stage. We did a couple shows with Norma Jean, my previous band. Norma Jean, and watching. Being on stage with Norma Jean, singing these songs together. Music has its own life. It has its own personality, and we've talked about this as a band, Floodlit. Like we don't release songs until they are another person, like that this song lives without me. Like if this song speaks to people without my knowing, if this song goes and connects to a person without my consent, that's successful music, because we brought to life something that lives outside of us, right? Like, and I think
Yeah.
that's all any human, that's why we cherish our children. That's why we cherish our generations, our grandchildren. It's like I brought somebody to life, but actually, I have no control over them. I have no control over them. I have influence. I have love. I can care for them, but my only actual way to relate to them is to love them unconditionally. Like
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for what they do and what they contribute to the world that I can't do, that I won't contribute to the world. And they'll go, hopefully, in a positive way, they'll continue to take the next generation forward long after I'm gone. And I think in the same way, that's timeless music. That's timeless art. I think that's a whole nother conversation, just art in general. But music, especially, is every song or every band and a project, an album, a collection of songs. I'm really hoping what I make has a love for me. It returns to me a kindness, but ultimately is its own thing, you know. And
Well,
and
I
that
think
that's
that's,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, you know, a lot of, I think a lot of artists that I've spoken with are, the way that they feel is, they write the song and the song's mine, but as soon as it's released, it's not mine anymore,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
kind of belongs to the world, and
That's the new thing bands are saying, right? Like, oh, this album is now yours, or this single is yours. That's like the new release statement, and I think there's some
that's
beautiful
it.
truth to
Yeah,
that. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's beautiful truth to that because you're right. Once an artist lets go, I mean, there's just so many people, right, who've said like, I don't remember the original sayer. They maybe attribute it to Michelangelo, I think, is the attribution, but artists never finish; it's only abandoned. And I think that's a really bleak way to look at it. I think it's more like art is never finished, but what happens is your piece of art grows up and starts walking away from you. It starts crawling away, walking away, doing its own thing, and people begin to go, "Wow, this I want to know this piece." And I think for the artist, it's hard because if you make a really good piece of art, actually no one really cares about you anymore. They really care about the art. So
yeah,
as a band, as bands, especially as bands under labels that need money and need branding and need there's kind of a sickness that we instill into our art by trying to keep ourselves inside of it. And I think that damages it. I think, so when we insert kind of a look, a brand, or this only happens because I say it happens. Well, just like a bad parent, kids get stunted in growth and get beat up over time by a parent that won't let go, like that won't let
yeah.
live. And I think that's the beauty of Floodlit is, working with younger band members. I mean, some of these members like Candy approaching like I could be her dad, like it's weird to say, but like I could definitely her uncle, like her hopefully like her cool uncle, but
No,
uh, you
so I
know,
don't think it's weird at all, because I absolutely get it. I mean,
yeah,
my kids are 19 and 21.
yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm like,
Yeah, wild. Like those are like there you go. Like your kids are in my band. Like it's such a weird thing.
yeah,
So I think so what's cool about that though is I think it goes hand in hand. Like if this is everything I'm processing and thinking, I think I have the maturity, I hope, I'm praying that I have the maturity to let them help dictate how this music sounds, and not momager this whole thing, this whole project, but to rather be like a really good, like, okay, like bring that to the table. Hey, that is dope. Like, let's keep that in. Let's tweak it a little bit, but like, I think that's got something, to help mentor and disciple towards, good things. And it's super cool because they bring the energy. I'm going to only lose. I can't, I will bring is what I bring what I can bring, but like, I'll break a leg on the stage if I have to, literally. But like at the end of the day, like hardcore music's not getting any easier and I'm not getting any younger. But by being able to help build a band that continues that really heavy music tradition, and they've got all the energy in the world, and on top of that, music that is its own creation, its own child moving forward in the world and creating connections and touching lives. Like, dude, what can be a better thing? That's why we listen to the music we listen to. That's why we love the bands that we love. Because I think ultimately, like you said, it's not just seeing that band live. I think it's also hearing that song live and
yeah,
watching it electrify. Send, especially Americans who are so reserved and tend to be kind of too cool for everything, especially guys, men who tend to be too macho to show any emotion, just freaking blow a place up when the right riff
yeah,
hits or the right, like, just like freaking the circle opens and chairs are flying and people are freaking windmilling and you're like, that guy's like almost 50 years old, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's something that when living in Myanmar, for example, we would go to festivals, we'd go to holy days, and we would see whole communities, men, women, all ages, go wild for traditional songs, for traditional music, drums and bells or whatever it might be, lock in and just release. And it's like Americans, we're a very young country and a lot of our traditions come from different places. And so I really genuinely believe underground metal music, as you know, it's quite European British as well, but really for America, especially like where you're from, the East Coast, Detroit, New York, New Jersey, like especially those hardcore traditions,
Yeah.
they are cultural. I know it sounds very anthropological, sociological dad of me, but those are cultures that help Americans identify things that are actually very key to our culture, which is independence is nice until it's not. And who am I culturally if I don't go back thousands of years, if I don't really know who I am? I'm just from a broken home in Brooklyn, or I'm just from like a one single parent home in Los Angeles, and I don't know who my dad is, and I don't know who I am, and I'm in this country that's like only 200 years old and doesn't have a freaking history, and our
Yeah.
history, we do have history, but our history is wild and violent and very tumultuous and but also really beautiful, but also like I don't know how do I even belong to that, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, we can all argue that we all belong to it.
yeah, yeah,
There's good and bad to it, and
yeah,
I think when we look at like culture and we're talking about I'm just music as a whole, like we look
yeah,
at what the Grateful Dead built and how
yeah,
many of their like fans went out and started doing their own thing and building
yeah,
companies, and
yeah,
which really helped shift, I think, corporate culture,
yeah, right, absolutely,
like
absolutely. 100%. That's, I think art has to help lead the way. And Americans, I think we're only just beginning to be able to point back a few generations and go,
yeah.
like, this is traditional American hardcore music. That's such a weird thing, but it's like you can now point back to the 70s to the 80s and go, okay, and then this is when this started, and this is when this started, and this is when this started. And it's like this kind of interesting historical study, but it's important because um it helps shape now when we go to those concerts and you unload and we know things like what a mosh pit is. We know things like what a wall of death is, or like what I mean, it becomes kind of this cultural element live, but also sonically when we listen, we know what a breakdown is. We know what a going to halftime and what the bell on the ride cymbal means. We gave that a meaning. We gave that meaning, and that now like is like, oh no, like I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna die. Yeah.
I mean, I love that. I love that. That's what art should be doing is help building traditional triggers in a society of people to connect and go, now is the time to open the pit. And the guy shouldn't have to say that. I mean, the best bands in the world, the musicians, the lead singer, the front man says nothing from the stage. They just play their songs and the songs do the talking and it just controls the room. It's unreal. Like when I went and saw Thrice, they did their 20th anniversary of Artists in the Ambulance. I think into the microphone, they said, thanks, we're Thrice, good night. I think that was like all I mean, they literally just stepped up. Oh, the one I'm sure you've seen that was going around because it's like it was memeable how epic it was. But Meshuggah, right? They had their dead black, like just totally lightless room, and then they just like I think it was like a bell or like whatever, and it just and it was like, and the lasers come on, and it's just like, and they don't have to say anything. They're not like, hey, what's up, guys? We're Meshuggah. Thanks for coming out. Like, let's get this
Now,
pit open. They just start playing, and the pit is open. The room is on fire. Everybody is nerves are just like, and that's it. That's beautiful music.
Yeah, but I think I think the culture is, so very different with younger bands too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
Well, let's take Knock Loose for instance,
Oh, sure. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Knock
Knock
loose. Let's
Loose
talk
is,
about it.
where do they? They're sub 15 years as a band, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're
Mm-hmm.
not even old enough to drive yet as a band.
Yeah.
Uh, and the crowd that they have, they're still in that like mindset, like they're, they get in the
Yeah.
pit, they do the windmills and the karate kicks and
Yeah.
cartwheels now. Like I'm like, okay,
Oh, people are
whatever.
just trying to figure it out, dude. They don't. I
That
don't think
they
the
are.
kids know. They're
No,
figuring it out. It's fine.
oh dude, cartwheels. I used to be able to do those. Cool. But like a lot of those younger bands,
Hmm.
that's what they see, that's what they know. So like
Hmm.
it doesn't matter the size of show. They're like,
Hmm.
I want you to kill a motherfucker, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be back here.
Yeah. Yeah. Please don't kill me.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
got
I
it.
mean, well, and they've got a whole new breadth of things to handle, right? Like we're living in a very globalized age. There's a lot more horrific things to see and a lot less people to guide. And so, and I think shows are in an interesting way violent. They're more violent than they've been, and the mosh pit is intentionally very violent. And yeah, there's some idiots in there that have always ruined the day for everybody, and eventually he gets knocked to the ground. But
Well,
you know,
I think there are a lot of bands now that uh, they want that pit to be super violent.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, talking to some of these younger bands, they're like, dude, I want to see people killing each other, and I'm
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. I don't think that's what they mean to want. What they want is something that Dillinger Escape Plan can do, or a Converge can do, or the Chariot can do. They want that, but they try to preach it. Like something I'm noticing a bad trend with a lot of heavy bands. Um, I'm listening to their albums coming out, and like really heavy, like hardcore bands. And I'm a little bit concerned because there's not much that they're saying except I hate you and I hate everything. And it's
yeah.
like, listen, man, we already hate everything. Like, you don't have to tell me twice. Like, like I already hate myself. Like, I get it. But I think the problem is when it's pure violence, which I think, it doesn't originate from them. That's kind of your mad balls of the world. You're like, old school. There's definitely bands where it's like they came to hurt people. Gigi Allen, like came to like mess people up physically. That's a whole nother case study. But
Yeah.
now that's like, oh, that's what a good show is. With two women in our band, like I want women to feel safe at our shows, and I
Right.
know that some women are super down to throw down. That's cool. That's for them. But like, you can get really hurt at some of these shows, and like, and they're saying that like hurt somebody. Like Dillinger Escape Plan, they've been touring around. The dude is throwing his guitar into the circle pit, like literally just without warning, just throwing it into the like that could literally kill somebody. And more than that, I just think like, if I brought my kids are younger, but if they get to their teens and they want to go see a heavy show, they want to see dad play and like open up the pit, like I don't want them to be in danger of for their lives. Like I want them to feel the energy and to feel like, the crowd surfing and the moshing and like, people get hurt here and there, but like accidentally, not like, oh, these 10 guys
Not
are
like on
literally,
purpose. They're not going for it. Yeah.
yeah, like swinging, 8 balls and socks and crap like that. I mean, just like, I just don't want to see that, I think. But I do really hope we electrify a room. I hope people mosh. I hope people stage dive. I hope people get it. What's funny is Turnstile is a really interesting cultural study. We could probably talk for an hour because they're like, what? They got like number one metal album of the year because like the
Dude,
Grammys,
they're huge.
they're huge,
Like
huge now.
and watching
Huge.
them, they just
Yeah.
like exploded.
Yes, yeah. Now
Like,
there's a lot of marketing to that for sure. There's something to be said about that, but I think what it is, a big part of it, at least, is they are a safer space for different generations, especially the younger generation, and women especially, to experience a hardcore show without feeling like they're gonna die, they're gonna get beat up, they're gonna, it's like, they've got the energy, but they've got like a kind of a controlled, safe space energy. And I don't know how much I feel about safe spaces and all that, but somehow they manage it well, where they're not preaching it, they're just doing their music, but their music is like accessible for younger generations, and you can love them or hate them. Their pits are just as hard as Knock Loose. They're just,
Mm-mm, no, they're not.
I mean, they're not as, I
No,
mean, they're
no, they're not.
not as hard, but they're just as
I
big.
will bet money on that.
They're
Like,
not
yeah,
as
they're
hard,
definitely
but they're just
they're
as
not as
big.
hard.
What I mean to say is hard is like, as like they're huge. I mean, they're big.
Yeah,
I mean, they threw that huge hometown
absolutely.
show, free show
But
in Detroit, and the whole place,
but
like from the
turns
front to back, was like wild, right?
but Turnstile is very different than Knock Loose in that,
Sure.
even in the musical realm, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
Knock
For
Loose is
sure.
very,
Yeah.
very heavy, and
Yeah.
Turnstile is much more, for lack of a better term, much more radio friendly, right?
Oh, for
Much more
sure. It's
accessible.
it's it, the joke is they're like the new No Doubt. I mean, they're like ripping No Doubt lines, like like the
Yeah,
new Gwen
yeah,
Stefani kind of like it's very like, okay, but for whatever reason they got this huge pass, and I think a lot of it has to do with they get to be on NPR, they get to be on the Grammys or whatever, and and I but their show, the people showing up is massive. I mean,
yeah.
it's not all just marketing. And that's why I said, like, it's a little bit of marketing, but people come to their shows in insane amounts of numbers. Like, not a festival level, like they just put on their own show under a bridge or in a park, and people just show up, and it becomes like this cultural event. But then all of the people, and then the pits inside, and a lot of and their whole thing now is like the stage takeover. Everyone jumps on stage and everyone stage dives, and I mean, it's crazy because it speaks to something. The point I'm getting to is like, you don't have to preach murder from the microphone to
Right.
get people pretty like tribal, to get people back to their roots, like human beings back to their like unhinged.
Just real primal like
Yeah,
feelings, right? And I
yeah.
think that's, it's a really good point. When the music is done, I don't want to say right, because
Oh yeah,
right,
it's
like
subjective for sure.
it
Yeah,
totally, yeah.
yeah,
Um, but there's a thing when you connect with the music that you just can't stop. It
yeah,
just makes you like move, and it's just such a different world today than it was even 10 years ago or 15 years ago at
yeah,
shows.
yeah, yeah. It's so true. A lot of venues are shutting down. The Chain Reaction, not far from where we're at, just doing their last show. Is it tonight, or maybe like they just happened? No, I think it's like, well, I think they just closed up. But um, I mean, a lot of classic venues are shutting down. But in their place, people are not stopping music, and I think
Right.
that's the balance. It's like we're in a kind of tumultuous shift where the industry is not what it used to be, and it doesn't have all of its fangs in everything anymore. And that's for good. That's for really good. But also there's some changes, some big changes that have to come from that as well, because um, they are, sorry, I got a call. Just my wife, but we're good. There are some big changes we have to make because, the money's not there for a traditional venue to keep the doors open. And, and so that's kind of a big thing. And then the other element is, you know, like people aren't going to shows at a mid-range anymore. They're either spending a lot of money to go see a really big show, or they're not. and we think like, oh no, like the scene's dying and shows are different, but actually those shows are now way more underground. They're kind of back to warehouses and like breweries, or whoever's got a stage, whoever's got a PA system. And I think that's why metal is almost kind of metal and all the subgenres, including a lot of like hardcore and all the post-hardcore genres. They're like doing pretty well because they're able to show up at like a skate park, and like people are cruising out again, they're rolling out again, and these bands are, and kids are dying for social connection. Like I at least know with my kids, they hate seeing me on the phone. Like they live in a very phone world and they get it, but they want to like go to the park and they want to like go see their friends, and they want to,
Yeah.
they want to be physically in person with people, and they see it as like kind of this cool like, "Ooh, we're like not on our phones," and it's like that's such a crazy like, who knew we'd come to that point where like it's so sad to see how invasive, digital technology is, that people are like dying to be present. But
I
what's cool
know.
is they're going to shows, and the venues think like, oh, it's over, it's all,
Well,
the
so
industry's
here's
dying, and
I I talking to a lot of like venue owners, one
mm,
of the issues that they have is uh, I gotta think. Like there was a study done or an article I read or something that said the average lifespan for a venue is about
mm,
5 years when they
mm,
have like hardcore shows. And the
mm,
reason for that is because in the pits they get so violent. There's
yeah,
broken
so
bones
much damage,
and
yeah,
lawsuits, and it's
mm,
like, oh
mm,
my God, at
mm-hmm.
what point do we say, hold on, right? As a concert attendee, like I'm all for a pit.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
something
absolutely.
happens, if something happens on accident, like I get it. But if we're
Hmm.
going there to kill someone or to,
Yeah,
to really like hurt and maim someone, like
yeah,
to me, you're missing the point of the music, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
not just missing the point of the music, you're really damaging something that is good for all of the scenes, right? Like
absolutely, absolutely.
it,
Every music genre needs a place to play. And when
yeah.
hardcore night shows up and kind of ruins that for everybody, like long term, that's a pretty bummer situation. Now you could say, and this is a good point. I could hear, someone throwing on the other side and saying like, well, hardcore just needs their own venues. Well, that's adorable. And yes, there are a lot of places that do that pretty decently. They are pretty known for being the hardcore venue. But how do you keep that open and viable long term when
Well,
there's
it's
only
a
so many
constant change.
hardcores? Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, it has to be because
Yeah,
there's only so many bands, that
yeah.
are doing things, and especially in the hardcore music scene, like, or just heavy music scene in general, unfortunately, and we hope not to be that way as Floodlit, but bands come and go, and they get big, and the problem is though they shouldn't be playing your local venue, more than at maximum once every couple months. I mean, if they overplay, your shows kind of begin to dwindle. If they underplay, then yeah, you're not really making it. So it's this crazy
There's a
balance.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a balance like a bunch of 20-year-olds are not going to maintain, like a venue owner might be more of our age and really trying to like, hey, I want to do this for the scene, I want to, but the bands, they're not thinking that. They're so stoked to get on the mic for the first time and the energy's flowing, and all the kid can think of is like half of the words from his song, and like, I want to see you kill somebody,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
his friends
Well,
who are also 18 will be happy to do, you know?
right. It is. It's a really like hard thing to see. Like I go to a lot of those shows where they're like,
Mhm.
punch the dude next to you in the nose, and I'm like, oh, I'm not
Oh,
next
please
to
don't.
anyone. Like I got a big nose. It's going to be expensive to fix. Just hold on.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, yeah,
but I see that, and really the people who go, they love that shit. They absolutely eat it
yeah,
up, and it's like
yeah, yeah.
I'm hoping not to break a hip at night. Like
Yeah, 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 dude. Yeah, coming out with your back hurting. I know.
yeah,
I just was in the freezing community pool, like freezing up my back, and then got in the jacuzzi. because I was like, dude, I got a video I'm gonna go hard for on Saturday. I gotta like prepare.
So I woke up this morning and I couldn't barely move. My wife's
Uh,
like, "You okay?" I was like, "I don't know, dude. Like, I'm going to Cleveland here Saturday," and she's like, "Uh-oh, like, did you take Advil?" I'm like, "Yep, I took Advil." She's like, "Here, take a muscle relaxer, and then here's a
yeah,
pain pill." And I'm like,
yeah,
"Oh my
yeah.
God, what are you
I
doing to
know
me?"
we're
Like,
we're getting old, man. I know it's
yeah,
crazy. Well, and that's what bringing it all back to Floodlit. It's so fun to be doing it again, to be doing it meaningfully, and and just to see the world receiving it. I'm just so happy. I'm happy not just for me. I'm happy for Will. I'm happy for Candy. I'm happy for Kevin and Yvonne. I'm happy for a team that's watching the thing that they worked very hard on over the last year, now finally going public with it and seeing the community really it's becoming their own. And getting to do really cool things like this with you. And again, that music saying it's not me going like, "Hey Tom, like let's talk." It's the music between us saying, "Hey, I'd like to introduce you."
yeah.
That means a ma is its own thing. It's its own, like, "Hey Tom, meet this guy. Hey guy, meet this. You're going to talk
Which
about me." You know.
you know, the music is the thing that breaks down those barriers, dude, and that's
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
I wish I will say that I wish everyone in the world understood that about music, but to me, that's what makes it so special. The
Yes.
ability to raise my kids.
Mm,
And dude, I tell this all the time. My daughter has always felt like the outsider,
mm, mm,
always. And
mm.
she had to be like 9 or 10. I took her to her first metal show and she was nervous. She's
Mm,
like,
yeah.
are people going to think I'm weird? And I'm like,
Mm.
honey, we're all weird.
Just you
Like,
wait. Just you wait. We're about to walk into a whole
yeah,
room of weird.
yeah. I'm like, we are all weird. And
Yeah.
that's, here, as soon as we walked in, I mean, it wasn't 5 minutes. Bands were like, "You're the coolest kid ever," signing drumsticks, signing
Yeah.
CDs, given to her. And she's
Brilliant.
like, "Oh." And tonight she worked 12 hours today and she's at a show right now.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's
Like,
brilliant. Yeah. I mean, people have to connect somewhere, and music is what does it. I think it's why, there's music in every religious institution. There's music that's pomp and circumstance for governments, for parades, I mean, for thousands of years, humans do music. I mean, music cued battles. I mean, it doesn't much anymore. They learn, surprise is maybe a better element of attack than, announcing yourself. But announcing yourself used to be a really dope part of like going into a, massive medieval or ancient battle. It was like horns and drums, and like it was a whole thing, an anesthetic almost to push people who otherwise would be afraid into bravery, but also into painlessness. It's a kind of drug. It's a kind of, it's a kind of language. It's a kind of, it's amazing how you describe music. It's like describing fire. Is it living? No. But then you're like, well, but it eats. And you're
yes,
like,
it
oh, that's
is.
true. And that's like, does it
Yeah.
consume? Yes, it does. Does it birth? Does it give life? Yes, it does. It's like this crazy kind of like, oh shoot, well, I guess it does. And music is that same way. It's math, but it's also language. There's a science to it, but there's
It's
also an art and creativity and breaking the rules to it. Yeah.
to me, like, music is life. Music is energy. It is
Mm.
that thing that
Hmm.
once it's created, it doesn't go out. Like, there
Yeah.
is no
Yeah.
stopping it.
Yeah. That's right. It's very eternal in that sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
that's brilliant. I love that, man. Look where we are. We're just going to talk about the band, but we're like,
We're all
where's Joe? Where's Joe Rogan? Get him on here. Yeah. Like, yeah. Yeah.
no,
Just,
because this would turn into like a 4-day conversation.
no, it's true.
Like,
It's true.
like,
No, we're
yeah.
good. We're already an hour in. It's like, yeah, no, brilliant.
So,
Yeah,
what's the next song you guys have?
yeah. Well, this is kind of fun. I guess this is a and now the band exclusive, but I am sitting in front of the set. So the first, debut song, Ama, for those who are listening, watching us, pontificate. If you made it this far, please go and listen to it. We'd love that. Love to hear what you think. The next song is called Ako, and Ako in Burmese is older brother. So we have older sister. The next song is older brother. Um, if older sister is a study on the loss of a loved one from, especially from the hands of violence, from gun violence, from military and warfare, the loss of loved ones. This one is actually is actually now the role reversal, and it is a first person study on a killer and a soldier who's in a bad situation, who's in a broken system, and who is the murderer of the innocent. So it's from his perspective. So older brother. So you have older sister and older brother. So we swap it. It is a bit more not to say violent in the sense of grotesque or preaching violence. It's just studying the reality of a life of war and only knowing what it means to be a soldier from a child's age. In Myanmar, unfortunately, that is a very real situation. Actually, on our land, we for 4 days we hid young men from an orphanage when the military was going around and conscripting young men, basically taking them out of orphanages and putting them into the military. We hid about a dozen young men on our land for 4 days. They stayed basically in a kind of in a shed, and they'd come out during the night and eat and hang out, but in the daytime they would lay low and sleep. And that's a very real reality of Myanmar, and that's the very real reality of a lot of places. And for thousands of years, humans' existence, young men getting militarized quite early and having to live with the terrors of that. And what's cool is I kind of juxtapose it with the story of Cain and Abel, and oftentimes a murderer, oftentimes a crime of passion is from those you love. It's your brother. It is
Yeah.
it's not from somebody distant. And unfortunately, in Myanmar, both of those things are converging realities where you do have conscription and soldiers and a militarized government, but those ranks are filled with your brothers. It's kind of I think America, I do not know why we don't talk about it enough, but we had a civil war. Like we maybe it's just because I'm over in California, our history is different, but I mean, we had a time where brothers stood across lines from each other and put each other in the grave over
Yeah.
things that I think ultimately they thought they understood, and I don't think they really did. And young men,
Which is
young 16 year
so
olds,
often
15-year olds. Yeah.
it's so often the case, right? Like we think
Yeah.
we understand, and it's sadly we are we're given a small piece of a giant picture, and you're like, oh, I understand this piece. It's like you understand this piece
Yeah.
in this, like in this scenario. But if you back up and you look at everything, do you really understand it?
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
so.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think there's something that's very important about staying humble. And I think that's what a lot of this song is going to talk about. Ako is going to just explore without preaching, just mourning what it means to realize who you've become, in that you never got an opportunity to understand. It was always just put in front of you. And it was always just
Yeah.
like you were told this is the way it is. So not preachy, not political one way or the other, just exploring, you know, what it means as a young person to be put in a very terrible situation. Um, and I'm very excited for it. It is really heavy. So I think Amma is kind of on the outskirts. You had mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, Amma is kind of a lighter take on, I think, a lot of the, music that you listen to, bands you bring on the show. Um, Ako is about to fall right into place.
Cool.
So yeah,
I
it
I'm
comes
here
out in a
for it.
few weeks. Yeah, I think general release date's going to be mid-January, like one of those Fridays. So definitely look out for it. I'm excited to hear what you think of it when it comes out, and for your channel, for your subscribers, what they think about it when that comes out. But in the meantime, I think a Ma gives a good. We released a Ma because I think it's a good range of what we have to offer. Some of our songs are more anthems, pretty girl vocals. Singing takes a little bit more of the charge. And then a co is really neat as a second release because it's just pretty much front to back sonic assault. I mean, it's got a great
Right
two
on.
step in. It's got a great two step in there. I'm very excited about. It opens up the pit. It's got a great traditional breakdown, like proper. What's the not just a two step, but like it's kind of got that like good like hulking like breakdown, traditional
Oh
breakdown in it
yeah.
that people are gonna love it. I think it's gonna help. I think build the boundaries out the other direction where people went, I don't know about Floodlit. They might be a little bit too light for me. I think this will help be like, oh, okay. There's a
But
range
I
here.
mean, Ama is a very it's dude, it's a song built for like rock radio. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I hope so.
Like,
I hope it catches on. It is a little bit octane, kind of. It's
yeah,
got a good, like I said, a moss. It's really soundly in the middle of where we're at, where I think it helps people realize like, hey, this is for everybody. Like this is, we've got screaming, we got breakdowns, but we've got really soaring choruses with harmonies, three-part harmonies, and
yeah.
it's a fun thing. And I got to, of course, give a shout out to our producer Stephen Reza. He is one of the original members. He was the original member of Kingdom of Giants, and Kingdom of Giants is now huge, but he went off into the pop world, and he's got a crazy story. He's got such a brilliant story. He'd be fun to bring on. But he says we are his first, heavy band ever, basically as a producer. He's produced a lot of pop artists and released a lot of R&B and hip hop, but worked for Warner Brothers for years on A&R and as a producer engineer. But this is his first heavy album. So if you like it, I mean, you definitely want to throw props his way as well. And then, of course, our mix and master, Seth Munson, is just killing it. He did the Fox Lake album. So if you've
I
the
just had those guys on a few weeks ago.
sick, yeah. So Fox Lake is killing it, and that's his production. I believe, if not mixing and mastering, for sure mastering. His boys are all knocked loose. Those are his friends he's gaming with all the time. So we are so thankful to have such a cool team where, we're working with Steven and he's got all of that great, and I think important musical actual talent that brings musicality, those singing vocals you're talking about, the range of guitars more than just chug chugs to
Yeah.
life. And yet then you've got a great, combination with Seth, who just does just wonders and brings those heavy tones into the mix. Um, Knows exactly what we're looking for when it comes to those breakdowns and that breadth of that depth of bass all the way to the higher frequencies. It's a killer combo, man. This album rules, and I love it. I made it, but even if I didn't make it, I would absolutely adore it, and I think that's what any artist can ask for. So I'm
Oh yeah,
excited.
you can't ask for much more than that, right?
No,
Like,
that's
I
it, man.
think
That's the dream.
as an artist, you've got to be like, oh yeah, my songs are amazing. Like, I love this. Um, if
Yeah,
not, it's kind of like, are you
yeah. Then why
falling
did I
short
do
on
it?
something? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think young people, big encouragement to young artists out there, keep going. Don't quit because you don't love it, but recognize that there will come a time where you don't have to settle for skill. Your skills will match your vision, and you got to like and don't cut your vision down just because I ran out of money or time or like
Right.
skill level. Like seriously try, shoot for the vision, and that's
But
where you're going to make something you're proud of.
I think for a lot of artists, like when you're drawn to it, you're just like it's like it's so magnetized. You
Hmm.
can't get away from it. And so what do? You like obsess over it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I need to be a little better at guitar or drums or a little better vocalist. How can I, learn these skills? And you do it,
Yeah.
and you get better. I mean, you listen to, um, we look back at, for some reason, I always go back to like thrash, but look at,
Yeah.
I don't want to say Metallica because I think Metallica devolved, like,
Yeah. Some bands they get a little bit they get older, and I think what happens again with the money and labels, and they're under a certain contract, and you just stop caring. You're like, whatever, I'll just fulfill my contract. But I think also they do think it's good. But I think what happens is, and this is why I'm so thankful to have younger members in the band, it's hard to keep pouring it out. And I think there's a cool motivation when you're with somebody and you're with a team that's like itching to go, like ready to keep pouring it out. And you're like, okay, I can do it. You're the veteran in the trench where you're like, oh, dude, I just want this war to be over. But you got the new guy who's like, I'm ready to go. Like, let's do it. What do you need? What do you want? And you're just like, okay, for this kid's sake, I'm gonna keep pushing forward, and And what's cool is with the right team, you unlock that youthfulness in you. And I just
yeah.
think Metallica, dude, I love Rise Against. The new Rise Against album was God bless him, but that was laughable. Like it was so bad. No one's talked about it because I think of how bad it was, and I think,
I think you've made, like, I think you're right because what I heard, I didn't even listen to the whole album. I
no,
heard like two songs, and I was like, no, to me
yeah,
this is not like Rise Against. It's not the Rise
yeah,
Against that I know and love.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I just
And
kind
it's
of,
okay for bands to evolve. I think, which was the point you were getting to originally. Like it's really cool to see bands actually do better and grow with time because they're more invested. They're so obsessed. But it's really sad to kind of see the back end when bands or maybe just individuals in a band they start to really lose it. And what's sad is like they think that this is all they have to offer. And again, I don't think that's true. I think it's just they don't have a fresh like injection of like
like,
whether that's,
perspective, right?
yeah, perspective, whether that's some new band members or whether that's like just listening around, like not letting your ears get tired and be like, oh, I only listen to what I grew up with. I think you're
Right.
brilliant, Tom, and that you're bringing new, fresh acts every time, every week into your life, because that I think keeps not only your audience young, but keeps you young and keeps you like passion, whatever kind of thing you're doing, your art, that keeps you like passionate to not settle, like to keep pushing forward. And I think as soon as people start to rest on their loins, I mean, it's just the classic saying, which is maybe a little melodramatic, but you either die young or you see yourself, die a hero or see yourself grow old enough to be the villain.
Well,
You know,
and I think there are also bands that it's so funny because, like, as much as we want bands to evolve, we also want them to stay the same. To,
yeah, yeah. It's the audience is to blame for sure. We tend
uh,
to be a bit fickle, and it's not fair to other
and
people. They're
but
humans.
but it depends on the
Yeah,
band too,
yeah,
because
yeah.
if we look at Deftones, there's
Mm,
not there aren't two albums that sound the same with
mm,
Deftones. They always do something different, and
mm.
I love them. They are for my family. They are one of our family bands. When they
Sick. Yeah,
tour, we all
yeah.
go and see them.
Sick. Yeah, yeah.
And we see them multiple times on a tour. So it's like
Yeah, what a
cool.
legacy. Yeah, killer.
But I'm so like they are playing the biggest shows they've ever played, and
Yeah.
it disappoints me. Like, and
Yeah.
I want them to be huge and keep making music, but I
Yeah.
want to see them in the little places that I've seen them,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
I don't want to see
Oh,
them
that's
with
so true.
30,000 other people. I just want to, I'm cool with
Yeah.
6 or 7,000. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
even cooler with 5 to 700, like,
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
do that.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely. Yeah. A
God,
great band, a totally different genre, but I love them, and they're kind of from your area originally a bit as Bayside. Bayside, great. kind of pop punk, like, but like metal tendencies. Very interesting band. Always hard to put a pin in them. And they just did a really cool. They called it the Errors Tour instead of the Eras Tour, like Taylor Swift. But they called it Errors, but it was cool because they did the kind of the 2 nights, back to back. They would do these albums this night, these albums this night, and it was like their old stuff, their new stuff. They did everything, and it was 2 nights per city. And it was a brilliant build because they kept the venue smaller and they toured with more regional acts that are pretty big, but regional
Right.
acts that are big to their regions. And they kept them pretty intimate. And as far as I know, they just killed it because the fans came out, they got exactly what they were hoping for, which was, like you said, that more that intimate, not a festival level. Well, I guess I'll enjoy this for 20 minutes with
20 minutes.
20,000 people,
Yeah.
like they got to like, hey, I'm here for 2 hours with one of my favorite bands. It's like putting on their records. They played a lot of stuff front to back, and it was like with people who cared, and it was like, 1,000 people max, and what a brilliant way to do that. And it's hard, it's like the balance of like, can bands do that? Should they do that? Is it awesome for Deftones that they're selling out stadiums? Yes, they deserve it. All the power to them,
Oh yeah.
But like you said, is it sad to be like, oh, you're so good now, but now you're also like, I can't, I have to share you.
Yeah.
Again, that's the music, right? It's not Deftones. It's like those albums are their own kids now, and their kids are growing up, and they are like, man, they're not kids, they're not children anymore. They're like
No,
masters of their realm. They are
it's
demanding those thousands of people.
and it's so wild to see like the amount of younger, I'll call them kids, right? But in their 20s, because I'm old enough to be
Yeah.
their dad now.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
But to come out to these shows, like we went to see I Hate God in
Mm.
Nashville. I
Yeah.
don't know,
Killer
2 weeks
band.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I love them. I've seen them. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen them. But so I go to the show, and I'm always expecting a bunch of older guys that are, probably drink too much and they're
Yeah.
smoked a
Yeah.
lot of weed, and we
Yeah.
get there, and it was like 40% of people under 25.
Brilliant. As it
Like,
should be.
okay,
Yeah.
like great for the band. I love it, but
Yeah. That's killer.
I,
Yeah.
I need to be the old guy back on the wall because they're getting all wild and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Elijah, I said an hour. We're an hour 20. I've had such a good time chatting with
Dude,
you,
such
dude.
a good time. We'll have to connect again. When a co comes out, maybe in a month or two, we'll reconnect and we'll be like, dude, how are you liking it? So
Yeah, but you
something
got to
like
send me
that.
the whole album.
Oh, dude. So yeah, so we are gonna put out the album in spring, like mid late spring. There's a reason
Okay.
for that. I can't really discuss, but it's all good things. It's just we've got one of our members a personal situation, but we have to kind of take it slow. But it's been cool to have to take it slow because we get to do this. We get to do a lot of social media
Yeah.
connection and like we're not burning a ton of money on tour yet and like playing for like a bunch of kind of half baked venues and slots, and we get to like kind of build some rapport and then hopefully get on the road in the new year, later in the new year, and actually like be on some stuff that we feel like, hey, here we go, like here's some fans,
Yeah.
here's some friends, it's fun. So
Yeah.
just
I
taking
think
it
it'll be
slow. We have
really
to take it
cool.
slow.
I would
Yeah.
say, maybe a month ish before the album release, let's do this
Yeah.
again, and we can
Yeah,
help push that.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Would love that kind of April sometime maybe, or that would be brilliant. Would love that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be
So,
great.
dude,
Awesome.
awesome. Well, anything before we go?
Now, final thoughts. What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. First of all, guys, Tom is amazing. This has been so cool. His room is cool. His wife killed it with the light selection, so I love that. Um, I I'm really excited for Floodlit. If I was not a member of the band, I would still be excited for Floodlit. It brings me back to music that seems so familiar in the early 2000s, late 90s that I grew up with, but it also I think is something for everybody, especially for the youth right now. And I'm excited to blow it up. If you haven't heard them all, go check it out. And the code's coming soon. So, and you heard it first. We haven't even said a code to anybody else. So there you go on Tom's channel.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
Metal!
Awesome, Elijah. Thank you, man. It has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you this evening and get to know you and all of what Floodlit is. I was going to say Thudlit.
Floodlit. That's pretty sick too.
Thudlit, yes.
We'll make a shirt just for you.
Yes. All right. Cool. Have yourself a great evening.
You too, man. Bless you. We'll talk to you
Thanks.
later.